Hey guys, just wanted to talk a little bit about the Ford F-150. I've got a 2015 Lariat, and I want to talk about what appears to be a pretty common problem in the late F-150 models, at least from what I've seen on forums across the internet, and it's the insanely loud cooling fans that most of the Ford dealers are trying to tell everybody is normal. And the ones that do seem to acknowledge that there's a problem usually seem to end up taking out the cooler relays and then taking out the whole fan assembly, replacing that, sometimes under warranty, sometimes not. Mine's no longer under warranty. And that might be the solution for some people, but I want to touch on what might be a more common problem that most of us are facing in these F-150s with that extremely loud cooling fan. And I started cluing into it as I was racking my brain trying to figure out. I had my truck for about 6 months, drove perfectly quiet. That's why I know it's not normal. And then suddenly, without warning, the fans kick on from the moment I turn the ignition on to the moment I turn it off. As a matter of fact, it would run sometimes for a few seconds even after the car is off, which is normal. But I started looking over the internet, looking for YouTube videos, nothing on the 2015s because they're too new. Stuff's not supposed to break on them, right? But they did. So I started reading forums, and I found that there are a lot of people having the exact same problem and not many people finding a solution. And I finally clued in. I found a few guys talking about the AC system, saying, well, we think that it's related to the AC pressure on the system, which I'm not an AC specialist, so I'm scratching my head, racking my brain, trying to figure out how that's possible. But after driving the truck for about 6 months with the fan blowing so loud that my neighbors could hear me from a block away, no word of a lie, every time I went through a drive-through, I had to turn the truck off so they could hear me ordering, and finally that pushed me over the edge. Actually, it was more than that. I was driving one day, and about 20 minutes after I had parked the truck, was standing about 50 feet away, talking with some friends, when all of a sudden a large blast from underneath my truck, it looked like a cloud that came out. It was Freon. The AC pressure valve had released Freon in a big cloud underneath my truck. It actually happened to me twice that week, and it forced me to try to finally figure out what the problem was, and it really made me think that maybe it does have to do with the AC system. Now, in regards to people who say that loud fan noise is normal, is it normal? Well, yes, it can be. The fan is there for a reason, and everybody on these forums keeps on scolding everybody for even questioning this. But is it supposed to run all the time? Absolutely not, especially not from the moment you start your vehicle. I live in British Columbia. The temperature is moderate. Climate is very mild. Never had I had this problem before. This is just all of a sudden. So I think that's what some of you are experiencing as well. And so anyway, is it normal? Yeah, if it's 100 degrees outside, your fan's going to run like crazy. You want it to, so that your system doesn't explode, doesn't overheat. But is it normal for most of us on a regular day? Absolutely not. It actually is a problem, and I think it can be fixed because I fixed it in mine. Anyway, so here's what you want to do. And I'm not a professional video YouTuber, so I just did this because I couldn't find anything for this on the internet. I want to help somebody find the same solution that I found. It's not as hard as we think, and I'm going to walk you through it the best I can. I didn't take video. I took pictures because I was actually doing the work. I didn't have somebody to film me. So I'm going to walk you through what I did. It's a cheap fix. It worked like a charm. My truck runs so quiet now that sometimes I can stand next to it and hardly hear it. And everything's working great. So here you go. I hope this helps somebody. All right, you want to locate your AC pressure sensor, which is right behind the radiator in the front of your truck over by the battery side. It's on the high pressure AC line. You can't mistake it because the low pressure line doesn't have a sensor on it. You can see the red circle around it there, and some wires coming out of the top. And the next thing you want to do is going to reach down and grab a hold of that. Right by the top, there's a little clasp on the top. You squeeze that, and you should be able to unlock it and wiggle it a little bit and pull it straight up. Once you do that, you wait for a moment. Now you should hear, if this is your problem, you should hear your fans begin to go completely off. if this is indeed the problem, because you've disconnected the sensor, which is telling the computer that there's too much pressure, it's got to cool. And once you decide that is the problem, you're going to want to test out your pressure lines. This that I'm pointing at is the high pressure line. This is the low pressure line. You're going to need a set of manifold gauges to put on these things to test the pressure. And you're going to have the refrigerant professionally taken out. And then all that's going to be left is for you to test to make sure there's zero pressure. You don't want to take these lines off and have Freon flying all over. Plus, it's illegal. It's environmentally unsafe. So you're going to hook up your gauges. The blue goes to the low pressure. The red goes to the high pressure. And check that you have a zero pressure. That's the best scenario. You don't want to have Freon flying in your face. Put some goggles on anyway, some gloves, just in case, because there may be some residual pressure. You're going to need three things. You're going to need a jack stand, a car jack, and a wheel chock of some sort. I just use this old wood block. Get the back tire blocked up right in front of your back tire so that it can't roll forward. And then you're going to have to jack the thing up and get that front tire off. The whole idea is you've got to get inside this front fender. You're going to have to take both the wheel off and then the fender splash shield so that you can get in there and work on this thing. All right, once you get in there, this is what you're going to see. This is your AC high and low pressure lines going into the firewall. The block of the valve is right there at the end of it. That is your expansion valve. This is the problem right here that a lot of guys are dealing with. This is what's causing the blockage in your system and the fans to run on high. Over on the right side, there's a fastener right under the battery box. That's going to have to be taken off so you can pull the lines backwards. On the other side of the battery, underneath the hood, you're going to want to get in there and loosen this wire clap. Just pop it off so that you have room to get a wrench in to get that bolt off that I just showed you. It's just going to buy you a little bit of room. Then you can get your wrench in there to get on the back side of this bolt that you see me pointing at. And your wrench can go in from this side. I also found out later in you can put it on from the other side as well. And then just wrench it off. It's a knuckle buster, but with enough little tiny back and forth, out it comes. And you can also reach it from inside the engine underneath the battery compartment with a long extension if you want to do it that way. I tried it several ways. And then finally you pop that bolt off, and that is a threaded nut that my finger's pointing at. And then on the other end, this is your AC expansion valve. This is the culprit right here. And you're going to want to get a 13 millimeter deep well socket on there, back that thing off counterclockwise so that you can pull it out. This is what it'll look like once that nut is off, and then you got to pull your lines off. And just pull them out of the way so you can work on that. Once you get the lines off, you see these two hex nuts. You're going to want to get your Allen key and back those out counterclockwise, just like you see me doing here. There's one on the right side, one on the left. This is what holds the expansion valve in. So you're going to get those out, and then you're going to want to pull that block straight out. You might have to wiggle it a little bit, but give it a tug. Out it comes. And you may not be able to see anything wrong with this. I don't know what they're supposed to look like, but I just know I've talked to some other mechanics. I've heard some on YouTube videos talking about these being faulty. And so just giving you a closer look at them here from different angles. And this is your part number right here if you're looking to replace that. Now some of the model or the part numbers change over time, but this is the factory direct one. Alright, once you get that out, this is your AC lines. You want to pry these washers off, and then in where the expansion block was, there's also some washers. You got to pry those out. Put the new ones on, dip them in some of this PEG oil, and make sure you don't use any normal type of oil. Use a AC compressor oil for these, and then assemble the whole thing back together just like you took it apart. It's as easy as that. Now, something to note is that when you buy the AC expansion valve, it's going to come with 2 washers on it. It's not going to come with the 2 additional washers you need to go on the lines. That apparently is a part of an AC line kit, so I had to go back to my dealer and ask them for the 2 washers. They come separately. You don't have to buy the lines, but they will not come with the AC expansion valve. You only get the 2 washers that go on the one side of the block that faces the firewall. You're going to have to add the other 2. They are different sizes, so don't get them confused. When you take the old washers out, make sure you lay them out next to the new ones in the order that you want to put them back on. And again, dip them in oil, wipe them off, put them in, assemble everything back just the way you took it apart. By the way, guys, just as a side note, make sure when you're taking these fittings and pipes off that you plug the openings with something so that debris can't get in there. If you're going to be replacing it right away and the part's in your hand, no worries, but something to think about. And then finally, once you get it all back together, make sure you get that tire back on tight, your fender splash in. The torque specifications for these lug nuts on the 2015 F150 is 150 foot-pounds. 150 foot-pounds. So I'm going to, I'll be putting some links to the manifold gauges in case you want to use those in the description below. I'm also going to put the torque specs for all of the other components of that AC line, the expansion valve that you're going to need. These specs are from Ford. And also I'll try to throw some Ford part numbers in there in case you're wanting to go directly to the Ford dealer and get your parts. I did use Motocraft parts mainly because most of the major auto part dealers didn't carry these parts yet. It's not supposed to be broken. It's less than 4 years old. And so they're a little bit late on the draw, but I have a feeling these parts were somewhat faulty from the manufacturer. So hopefully they've solved some of these problems, but this hopefully will help you. And I really hope to hear that some of you guys have some quieter running trucks after this. You will have to have your AC vacuumed out and recharged after this. And I think I paid about $150 to have mine done properly. I wanted to make sure they vacuumed out the oil as well and got the right amount of oil back in. And so you'll have to find somebody, unless you want to do that all yourself. That's up to you. And let me know if this works for you guys. I'm looking forward to hearing some good things. And truck on. Oh, before I forget, guys, this part, I believe the the expansion valve was about $50 from Ford. You can get it cheaper if you can get your hands on it from other auto dealers or parts dealers. And so really, truth be told, I got the whole AC system restored, the fan problem solved, everything for about $200. And if you do your own AC charging, vacuuming, all of that, oil, make sure you get oil in your compressor pump. You don't want to run it without oil with the proper amount. You don't want to over oil it. But if you can do all that yourself, you could probably do it closer to $80 if you get your own charge and refrigerant and put that in yourself. Over and out, guys. Hey, one more thing, guys. Sorry about this. I'm not a professional YouTuber, but I mentioned $200 for the parts and charging. That was in Canadian dollars. I live in British Columbia now. I was born and raised in the States. In the U.S., that probably quite a bit less. $200 might be about $5 U.S. Well, you get the point. Anyway, another side note is, if you're wondering how come this can be an AC problem, but my AC seems to be working fine. Honestly, my AC worked fine for 6 months while this fan was doing this. So this was a progressive problem. I probably was having a little bit of reduced AC as the 6 months was going on, and then finally when it blew out the pressure valve, I had no AC. So don't let the fact that you've still got air conditioning working keep you from trying this fix. Throw some pressure gauges on. At one point in time, I was reading nearly 500 psi on the high end and anywhere from 100 to a -30 on the low end, which is a very clear symptom of a bad expansion valve. So anyway, if you want to hear how my truck sounds after the repair, take a listen to this. The AC's blowing cold, the truck is running quiet, and I am one happy driver. Peace out.